Welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about how to do your unit conversions from the standard system to the metric system and vice versa, metric to standard. If you don't know how to convert within the standard system or within the metric system separately, you'll want to watch the previous video that I have created. Okay. So we already know in the standard system that there's this little fractional setup of how to convert from, say, miles into inches. It's all about canceling out the units, something on top with something on the bottom to cancel out and move to the units that you're looking for. In the metric system, you put out the list of all of the prefixes for your units, largest on the left to the smallest on the right. You place yourself on the unit that you're starting with and then count how many steps to the unit you're trying to convert to. That's how many spots you move your decimal point and the direction you move your decimal point to convert in the metric system. But what happens if we need to convert from the standard system into the metric system or vice versa? Well, this is how I look at it. I look at it as if the two systems are separate islands. We have the standard system. Okay. And in this island, we have our miles, we have our yards, we have our feet. These are different cities in my little island. And over here, we have our inches. And then we have another island called the metric island. This has a lot more cities to it. We have kilometers and hectometers and and our base of meters, and we have decimeters, and we have centimeters, and we have millimeters. Actually, let me change that. So those are all of our different cities in the metric system. So the key is we know how to drive from one city to another city in the standard system. We know how to drive from one city to another city in the metric system. However, how do we get from one island to the other island? And there are two bridges. There's the high bridge and the low bridge. The high bridge is the one that's going from our longer distances. So we do have one conversion that goes from miles to kilometers. So that's our high bridge because those are our big distances, the mile and the kilometer. Then we have the low bridge, which is a conversion from inches to centimeters. So in order to convert from a standard unit to a metric unit, we have to drive from the city that we're at to one of the cities that has the bridges. Doesn't really matter which one. Then we take the bridge across to the other island, and then we can have a new value at that point, a value that's either a kilometer or a centimeter, and we then convert in the metric system or drive from one city to another city in the metric system by moving our decimal point. If we're going the other direction, again, we start in the metric system, we move our decimal point, the number of spots in the correct direction to get us to either centimeters or kilometers. Then we take the bridge over and do our conversion on the other side. Now, the bridges were made in the United States. So in order to take the bridge over, you have to do the same type of setup as if you were in the standard system. The little fraction thing with the line and the bar and the stuff on top and the stuff on the bottom. So we need to know what those conversions are. Well, the high bridge is that 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. So again, because we have this that is equal to each other, you'd have to do that same type of setup as if you were in our standard system. On the low side of things, the low bridge is that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So again, you have to do that same type of setup. That's all you need to know in order to go from one bridge to the other. So let's do an example. Say I had 22 feet and I want to find out how many decimeters is that. So since decimeters is one of those smaller units, I think I want to take the low bridge. So I'm going to go from feet to inches. So I'm going to travel over here from feet to inches. Then I'm going to take the bridge across. And then once I'm on the other side, I'll go from centimeters to decimeters. Okay. So to go from feet to inches and across the bridge, I have to do that same setup that we did in those conversions in the standard form. 22 feet, line, line. We know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. That cancels my unit of feet on top with feet on the bottom, leaving me with inches. Now I'm at inches. I'm at the bridge port. Now to go across the bridge, I have to use that same conversion in the same fashion. 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. Again, I need inches on the bottom because I currently have inches on top. So I'm going to have to write it as 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. Now that I have my units the way that I want them, I now just have to do the math to find out how many centimeters that is. Again, this is not going to be my final answer, but it's letting me know what I have now that I'm in the metric system. So I'm going to take that 22 times the 12 times the 2.54. On the bottom, I just have 1 times 1, so that's just going to give me 1. Doing that math there, I find out that I have 670.56 centimeters. Now make sure that you keep labeling things as you go. It's centimeters because that's the only unit I had left when I did my conversion. So now I'm over here at the city of centimeters, and I need to go to decimeters. Well, let's see. Let me do a little editing here. So you will always want to have this list of your abbreviations nearby and in that order. Make sure that you have it done correctly, left to right, so it's really easy for you to reference so that you can do your conversions. Now remember, we're trying to get to decimeters. So I put myself here at centimeters. And I'm moving 1 step to the left to make it into decimeters. So I'm going to do the same thing here with my decimal point. I only move it 1 spot to the left. So that's going to give me 67.056 decimeters. Always label. So 22 feet is equivalent to 67.056 decimeters. Now, your decimal points, we only have 3 decimal places here. That's not too bad. Use all of them. Only if you have a load of decimal points do you want to do any rounding. Rounding, to be safe, you should for sure do probably 3 decimal places. I'll probably accept 2. But notice that if you happen to use the high bridge has 3 decimal places in here as part of your conversion. You'll want to probably keep at least 3 decimal places to keep it as accurate as possible. If you do all of your math and you end up with a number that has 4 decimal places and only 4 decimal places, use all of them. There's no reason to cut things off and truncate it if it's only to 4 decimal places. Anything beyond that, that's when you want to really start shrinking things down. Okay. So let's do another one. That was going from standard system. Over here, feet, once again, we moved from feet to inches, then we took the bridge, and then we moved along in the metric system. Okay. We could have also gone up to miles instead, gone across to kilometers, and then went from kilometers down to decimeters and gotten our answer that way. There probably would have been a slight rounding error, which is why we want to make sure that we have enough decimal places, because it may have gone a little bit, that last number might be slightly off depending on which bridge we show or we use, which is another reason why we need to make sure that we show some work so I know whether you took the low bridge or the high bridge to know if that last digit is slightly off due to the bridge that you took. Okay. Let's do another problem, but now let's go from the metric system to the standard system. So for example, let's say that we have, well, I really want to know a hectometer is how many yards. So 1 hectometer equals how many yards? How close is a hectometer to a football field? Because I'm not really good with knowing my distances. I don't have any depth perception, but I know some certain distances that I use in my life on a regular basis, and I try to relate things to those sizes so that I can see, okay, is this bigger or smaller than that? So let's convert a hectometer to a yard to find out how close to a football field is that. Okay. So first we identify what type of unit do we have. We started off with a hectometer, so that is the metric system. So I need to go from the hectometer and I have to decide, do I want to go to the high bridge or the low bridge? Now, because a hectometer is one of the larger units in the metric system, it seems a little bit wiser to go to kilometer than to go all the way to the small unit of centimeter. So I'm going to do that. I'm starting with hectometer and I'm going to convert that over to kilometers, which means I just need to take that and move it one spot to my left. Now again, with no decimal point here, it's always to the far right of your number. And I want to move that one spot to the left. So that's going to give me 0.1 kilometers is equivalent to 1 hectometer. If you need to, put the 0 in front, so 0.1, so you don't lose that decimal point. Now that I'm at a bridge city, I have to go back to the standard way of converting. So I'm going to start with that 0.1 kilometer, and I'm going to do my little line thing. Now the conversion was 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. I need kilometers on bottom to be able to cancel with the kilometers on top. So I have 1.609 kilometers is equal to 1 mile. Again, the kilometers on top will cancel with the kilometers on the bottom. So now the unit that I have is miles. I'm trying to get to yards. I don't have a direct relationship from miles to yards. We could set that up so that we have that, but it's another larger number. And I think it's easier just to remember the one number of feet to miles as opposed to remembering two of them, feet to miles and yards to miles. So we're going to go to feet first and then feet to yards. So 1 mile, again, I need to put that on the bottom to cancel with the miles on top, is equal to 5,280 feet. The miles on top cancel with the miles on the bottom, so my current unit is feet. Again, though, I need yards. So now I need to see if I can convert from feet to yards. And we know that 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. The feet on top cancel with the feet on the bottom. Unit I have left is yards. That's what I'm looking for, so that's how I know that I'm done. So now to do the math, I take all the numbers on top and I multiply them together. So I have, don't forget, it's a 0.1 times 1 times 5,280 times 1 on top. And on the bottom, I have 1.609 times 1 times 3. Now remember, we're going to multiply the numbers on top and the numbers on the bottom separately and then divide them. So taking the numbers on top ends up giving me 528. On the bottom then, I have 4.827. 4.827. And lastly, I divide those. The result that I get is 109.38. And again, what's my label though? We were finding yards. So remember, from end zone to end zone is 100 yards. Each end zone in a football field is 10 yards. So this is just shy of the length of a football field with one end zone and not the other end zone. And that's the length of a hectometer. So again, we need to drive from the city that we're at to one of our port cities, either the high road at kilometers or the low road at centimeters if we're in the metric system. If we're in the standard system, either the high road at miles or the low road at inches. Then we get across the bridge. The bridge is made in the United States, so you have to use the standard setup, which is one of these types of things, to get from one side or one island to the other island. Once you have that number, now you have to do the conversions the rest of the way. So again, standard system, we set up this little line thing, we'll call it the line thing, to get to our port city of either mile or inch. We continue using this setup to get us across the bridge. Then once we are across the bridge, we take that number and we separate it from what we've done before. And then we do our conversions using the names of all of our prefixes, our units in the metric system. Put ourselves where we're at, count to where we're going. In reverse, if we're doing the standard system or the metric system first, we set it up and tell us where we're going, and we take the steps to get to either kilometers or centimeters, which are our bridge cities. We find that new number, we put that into the little line thing and do our conversion across the bridge and then to the city that we're looking for in the standard island. That is how we are doing our unit conversions from metric to standard and vice versa. The exact same type of procedure works if you are using other types of units. As I stated before, we are only dealing with units of length here, meters. Okay? There are other units that we could be using as well. We could be going from grams over. Grams is a mass or a weight, so that would be having to know a new conversion to find out how to go from your grams over to pounds or ounces. So that's the only new number that you would have to look up to know in order to move from one system to the other. If we are dealing with volumes in the metric system, it's a liter. And we'd once again have to move that over into our system, dealing with gallons and quarts and pints and cups and the like. So there's a lot of different types of techniques to use in the American system or the standard system in the different types of units. There's only one way in the metric system. It's always just multiples of 10, bigger or smaller, which is why it's really a better system. But we will never change. So there's more conversions that you'll have to look up and know, but each system has a bridge. Here we had two bridges, the high and the low. Each system has a bridge. That's the number that you want to know, and then learn your conversions within your individual system. Hope that helps. And that's your lesson on conversions.